name's Robert Smith.
Dharma Engineering.
Yeah, I'm a co-founder of Dharma Engineering.
Parent company.
I'm Matt Kurek, co-founder. I'm the engineer guy.
What is your position?
I do a lot of the marketing, sales.
Yeah. How did you guys kind of figure that out between the two of you? Were you both doing marketing at first, or was it just strictly you? And then you were just, because it was Nerdy Review at first.
Well, Nerdy Review was really just something that we were doing because we had all these printers and we were just constantly printing things, and people think it's cool, and there's like a big Instagram community around it.
A huge subculture.
The 3D printing.
Yeah, and we weren't exactly sure what we were going to do at first, so we were building a platform to potentially sell like any of our ideas that we had.
Of a 3D product.
Yeah, we would have like a niche community that we could properly display like our whatever we thought we would sell to.
So it was probably like the perfect storm of marketing, like figuring out what worked with Nerdy Review, and then finally figuring out a product to sell.
Well,
it was definitely good experience for understanding Instagram and the algorithms and how to get your content to go viral, which we have definitely excelled at for sure.
Yeah, one of our posts got 100,000 views on Instagram, and I've seen it reposted on Facebook, and like other accounts reposted it, and it got way more than 100,000. That's just all of ours got.
Yeah, we have like handfuls of posts, like at least 10 that have over 50,000 views for sure. And every time we posted one of those, it got reposted.
If you want to know the secret to Instagram from what we've seen is it's all oohs and ahs, short videos or just like real catchy pictures, whatever you can do. But nobody wants any information. They just want just good content.
Yeah, Instagram's just eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
Basically everything.
You got to capture their attention long enough because everybody's just scrolling. Like most people don't hit the like button,
Yeah.
Which we only really cared about views. Likes were like just random.
They are important though, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtags also very important.
Yeah.
Not everybody uses hashtags, and if you want your content to show up in the Explore feed properly, you gotta use hashtags.
Which is actually, from what I've seen from Instagram Insights, it's different now. So hashtags are now like almost like a group that you follow, and then you'll be displayed that on your home feed. The Explore feed, we literally get minimal views on every post.
Yeah, but all the recommended views, and what you said, we get minimal views on the Explore feed?
I'm telling you, yeah. And then hashtags is its own separate category. And like today I tried something different where usually there's like, if you type in a hashtag, you'll see either this guy and 5 other people follow it, or there's 790,000 posts in that hashtag. And I'm pretty sure what the large number hashtag is the Explore feed. And then the other hashtag category is when you're scrolling on your homepage, there'll be like a hashtag whatever it is, and it'll be a post from somebody you don't follow, but it's from a hashtag that you do follow. So, I'm not exactly sure of the science or like that.
Everyone's chasing slaves of
the
the algorithm.
They keep it pretty secretive, and Instagram's changed their algorithm so many times in the last few years.
Constantly.
So many times.
Constantly keep up to it. Did you just focus on? I know you've been trying to branch out to Twitter and Facebook, right? Have you just been sticking to Instagram?
But yeah, I definitely I've been slacking on the Pinterest and Instagram, or Pinterest and Twitter. I'll occasionally post, but for the
we did start getting views.
Yeah, we
to
did.
Our store from that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we definitely have like gotten traffic from it, but they're all different. Like the community that uses those platforms is much different. Mm-hmm. Like Twitter's a bunch of like assholes, and freaking Instagram.
Correct.
Like Pinterest, a lot of.
I don't know anything about Pinterest.
It's a lot of artsy. I mean, it's definitely like a female dominated platform, I would say, but it wouldn't hurt to be a part of them. And we get Facebook likes constantly.
Really?
And we get not a lot, but I would say like about every day or every other day we get somebody who likes Glama or whatever.
Yeah, Globmob.
So Globmob is one of our brands that we started as kind of a sub company under Dharma Engineering, which is our overall parent company.
Correct.
just filling everybody in.
It was a long process to get there too. When we first started this, and originally you asked like what our roles were and like how we figured that out. It was pretty common sense to both of us, I would say. But, like that was my role because Matt was the original person who came up with the idea and invited me in on it, and I was excited to like do the marketing and stuff. But yeah, through the first year, it was a lot of trial and error of like trying to figure out what would work, what wouldn't, and we had a lot of different business ideas that involved like a lot of engineering and like new stuff. We were learning something new almost every day, and throughout all those like failed business ventures, which low capital or like we didn't put any investment besides our own time into it. We ended up learning like
it's more so failed prototyping than a failed business venture.
Yeah.
Did you learn a lot from your early
so much.
your 3D prints
So
earlier on,
much.
like Nerdy Review onto this one?
I mean, we basically were here for a year trying things and working on different projects, R&D wise, and it just definitely helped us get a lot more fluent with it. Like the quality of our 3D prints obviously has gone through the roof compared to when we started.
They are clean.
And then, obviously like my skills like with 3D design and whatnot definitely blossomed over that year. And I think that was what really helped us push out our first brand, is just because I had finally had enough daily experience doing 3D design that I could turn out like a consumer grade product.
Yeah. And it's just about starting and like continually making mistakes until you finally just figure out like a game plan where you can like implement.
That wasn't exactly our plan, but it definitely turned out to be.
It's weird how it's not planned, but it just comes out.
I mean, we didn't start those ventures thinking that we were gonna fail,
Yeah.
But like.
But that's how you stick with it, If you're gonna, if it's like a side project, I feel like most people just fail when they do that. But if you don't think that you're gonna fail, you're gonna stick with it and like continually learn, and then eventually you figure it out, right? It's just trial and error, like you guys have been doing.
Yeah, but going forward, the brands that we start, we realized with the 3D printers, like it's tough to sell parts or just like simple products. We need like a whole brand to maximize the profitability of the printers. Like we're the sole manufacturers of the brand's products. But originally we wanted to do like engineering style.
Well, we should say, so one of the main things is that like for one of our like Dharma engineering like core philosophies is that we want to just continually acquire more equipment so that we can do more things. And then as we get more equipment, we can use that to make more different kinds of products that we can sell ourselves, and then we could also do contract work for other people. So that's like the main core philosophy of Dharma engineering. And then obviously we started this brand that we're talking about now.
Yeah, but I remember wanting, or like my original idea, or one of them was like thinking that we were going to be doing like engineering consulting services or rapid prototyping.
We are.
But we realized at the time that like he hadn't even graduated yet, and like we really had no credibility to go off of. But through time and like just personal connections, we've started working on like actual consulting and engineering work.
Longevity is half of it. Because I feel like if you stay out there long enough, people like recognize what you're doing. Obviously, it's brand awareness, but just like if you're able to survive on what you're doing, I think it's impressive enough where people come to you just to see what you're doing.
Andy's really smart for anybody out there who wants to like start their own business and like has like a product concept. It is so expensive to go to China and get a prototype that like you're talking to people that don't even speak your same language. And like that, whoever you're talking to is probably not like the engineer or the machinist who's working on your mold, and like it could be like the mold itself could be $2,000.
Oh, it's going to be so much more than 2,000. 2,000 is
not.
Molds
are
accurate.
expensive,
yeah,
right?
They're
wild.
Minimum 5,000, very bare minimum for like a single cavity injection mold. If you have an automated injection mold that's making like 4 or 5 of your products per pop, you're paying at least 10 to 20,000 like bare minimum.
Is that what you guys are trying to go towards, injection molding? I remember earlier on you guys were trying to go into some type of molding.
We did
We'll
build it.
incorporate it. We for sure will incorporate it.
There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
And some parts are like better injection molded than 3D printed.
Yeah, like if you need things that can be like watertight and airtight, you're better off making it injection molded.
And also for like time's sake, 3D printing does take a lot more time than injection molding. When if you have a small part, you can just sit there all day and crank them out one by one.
But the major benefit 3D printing is if you are starting a new product and you know you only need 500 of them for your first batch that you're going to try to sell, like spending a minimum of $5,000 on a mold is a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's just the mold, because then you still have to pay, you know, $4 or $5 a piece, whatever they're going to charge you based on the size, you know.
And you got to market it somehow. I mean, it's a lot of time.
And like, if you don't like the design of your mold, like whether they mess it up or not, which I've heard people, or we have a friend that had huge problems with his manufacturer out in China, and they were flying to China, like spending you know their money on plane tickets and stuff to do that. Yeah,
our friends, they started a company, Titan Mixer Bottle, and got a bunch of money on Kickstarter. And one of them had to go out to China and stay there for like 2 or 3 weeks and essentially like oversee the whole like fine tuning of the mold and the manufacturing process. Yeah, they were having so many problems with it.
I read Phil Scott, the Nike dude, founded Nike, and that's what he had to do. Like, cause he all outsourced to China. Like he had to look over the plants because it was just if he didn't, it was gonna mess up. It
sounded super hectic, and like I said, like you might not even be talking to like the person who's like machining your mold, or like if you have them do any type of CAD work, like either way, no good. And like if you use like an American 3D printing company, and like he's basically an industrial designer or whatever you would call yourself.
A man of many skills at this point.
But I mean, like to whatever his engineering rate is, like is much cheaper than what you would do out there. And then the prototype itself, it would not, depending on what it was, would probably not cost more than $100, $200 in like time and plastic, not including the engineering or like the hours you spend. Like
assuming it's just like a plastic product, not like electronics or anything.
But either way, like if you don't like the concept, then you just didn't throw a bunch of money down the drain. You just come back for another one, and then like until you like have one that you like. And even if you get through that process, then we would be like a small batch manufacturer.
Yeah, let's say you have a very simple product. It's just something that holds your toothbrush or something, you know, some simple plastic cup. And you just want to get 100 of them made and have a bunch of your friends test it and tell you if they like it, you know. You can't go have a mold made and pay thousands of dollars as like a person who's trying to start, you know, a new company out of nothing.
To live off of it,
You know, you go to a 3D printing company like us and you get a whole bunch of them made for a few bucks a pop, you know? And it's a difference between
do people not know that? Is it like...
Honestly,
what do you think the problem is?
The problem is that 3D printing hit consumer level like 5-6 years ago, well, really like about 8 years ago now. And the first 3D prints that everybody saw, like the first time you ever saw a 3D printed object, it had a very distinctive look where you knew it was 3D printed. It wasn't necessarily the best looking, but it was cool that you made it, you know?
Yeah, kind of like DIY type thing.
Yeah, so now there's like people like us who can print things much, 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 much higher of a quality
and at scale
than your average person.
Yeah. True.
And with that increased quality just comes a different perception and perceived value of the product.
What's your guys' opinions on the future of 3D printing? Do you think it'll be more commercialized? Do you think it'd be more in-house, like DIY? Do you think it'd be more
between both.
In-house? Yeah.
Because like the household 3D printers or desktop 3D printers are like innovating the 3D printing game all around. Like they're making it like smaller, more compact, and like all the
makes everybody more knowledgeable. So
we're very far off of grandma having a 3D printer.
Oh yeah,
very far off. They definitely still break down, require a decent amount of maintenance. That if you're not like a nerdy techie person, you'll end up getting over it. You'll get over it real quick.
But all these household printers like allowed people like us to experiment with a bunch of different brands and whatnot to find like a printer that is like production quality and whatnot, and we're capable of doing it versus like Ford has like they have like huge 3D printers or whatever, like giant companies, and those can be hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, and like definitely not
So
accessible.
for comparison, about a year ago exactly, I was finishing my last semester at OSU, and I did chemical engineering, and I worked in the research labs under one of my professors. And we hit the point in a research project where we needed some 3D printed parts. And they did not think there was any way they would be able to make them using a traditional like fused deposition printer like what we use. They thought they'd have to use a fancy laser one and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to have one single part made. But we ended up getting printing contract, making a bunch of parts for this project. Just because our printers that we run, consumer ones, we're so good at running them. We've been doing it for 3 years.
Yeah.
Like our settings and like our calibration is just so on point that like we're outperforming the printers that they have at OSU that they spent, you know, tens of thousands of dollars on years ago. So you're seeing a lot of, this is actually a good talking point. There's a lot of colleges and universities and businesses who invested in 3D printing too early. They spent exorbitant amounts of money on 3D printers in the early stage of it, and now you're seeing printers that are, you know, $1,000 that can outperform them.
Yeah.
So you're actually seeing a lot of companies who are in this like weird spot with additive manufacturing where they have equipment and it's like subpar, but they can't get rid of it because they spent so much money on it.
And who's to say that their designer is knowledgeable about like the limitations of 3D printing, which is another benefit of having him. Like it it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal because like 3D printing has its limitations, and when he's designing something, he like already has that in mind as he's making like all the angles for the walls of a certain like enclosure or whatnot.
Yeah, so there's kind of a standard term that they call like designing for manufacturability, where like any product that you want to bring to market, you have to take your design and then you have to edit little parts of it to make it manufacturable. And so with injection molding, this usually involves adding draft to the walls, which is like angle and like fillets so that it can pull out of the mold properly.
Okay.
But for me, with 3D printing, it's totally different. And if you're an industrial designer and you haven't 3D printed thousands of things, like you're not going to have automatic intuition for like the things that look
absolutely
good.
not.
Because like for one example, fillets don't look as good 3D printing. When you get a big rounded top on something, the way that the layers form as it goes higher up at the top of the curve just doesn't look as good.
Now, how did you learn this? Just through trial and error, or is it any? Do they even offer these type of
Printed
classes?
many things.
Yeah.
I think some colleges are starting to like offer like intro courses essentially, but there's not.
But who's
there's
even
not
going to
anything
teach
big
them?
out
Like the
there.
industry is so
That's a good
new
point.
that like the teachers are probably like reading from a book or just
Do
hobbyists.
you think it's more of a kind of an entrepreneurial endeavor, or do you think it could be more of a commercial effort to do what you guys are kind of doing?
I think right now it's entrepreneurial, but like going forward, and we plan to acquire like a whole entire farm and be at some point
Print
being
farm.
capable of like manufacturing like actual injection mold style numbers. But they'll just be one tool that we've acquired. Definitely want to keep an open book on what we're gonna do in the future.
Yeah, I want to be able to make everything, anything and everything.
From like a production point of view, where's like the 3D printing world at now, and like where do you guys see what you're able to make in the future?
For like production capabilities, like
Just like what you're able to make, like what's I don't know, like top level.
so printer like I said, there's
Biggest constraint size.
Yeah.
Like to get the quality that is required for a consumer product, the printers that do it are on the smaller side. They're not tiny by any means. You know, you got like about the size of a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
But that's the size of a sheet of paper. If you wanted to make a stand for organizing all your papers on your desk, like you can't print a stand that's like actually bigger than a sheet of paper that they could fit on. So the constraints do pop up easy, but you know, that's something that we'll see, like extra large, like XL style printers will definitely start popping up more.
and if at some point we don't make our own printer that we either like sell or just use for our own production, which in the first year of doing all this, like that was a topic of conversation just because we were learning so much about him, and he'd be like, I swear I could do this better than they did.
Mhm.
Well, the Taz freaking
Yeah.
was just the problem.
Yeah, our most expensive printer that we ever owned turned out to be the worst one.
Yeah.
Usually it's branding at that point.
Yeah, it was an
Sometimes.
it was an American brand.
Yeah, bought it because it was American. They had 24-hour
Really?
like phone line that you could call for support and whatnot. It seemed real good, but after a while, we kind of reached the point where we're just like, this brand sucks. Aleph Objects, and I remember saying to you, well, we did the YouTube thing where we talked about our Lowe's Bot Taz 6 review, and I don't know. I said I thought the brand would go under eventually because just we know so much about 3D printing and like
Competition
there's some
will
printers for
overtake it.
$2,500 that are like literally worse than $400 printers. So I said they're definitely going to go under, and then a few months ago I saw they got bought out.
Really?
Yeah, and they're no more.
Really, I'd actually.
Yeah, they got. I can't remember who bought them, but they absorbed the company and brand. Yeah.
Good call out.
Yeah.
So you both do. You focus more on the 3D printing, but you also focus on now you're doing animation
I
stuff.
do a lot more than 3D printing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But can you guys like interchange your roles at some capacity? Are you trying to learn each other's roles at all, or is you strictly keep it a niche?
it's so specialized.
Yeah.
In my opinion, for some, like he's getting way too in deep into like electronics and like the CAD. I tried to learn CAD for a little bit just to like have
be not like dangerous enough. Yeah.
And like I know like a very very good basis of some of like the essential parts of our business, like the 3D printing. We're equally the 3D printer maintenance and just overall like insight on the printers, and I would say we're even.
Yeah, in terms of like operational capacity, we're definitely even on like being able to like
to run this whole show.
Run the whole show. Like if Rob's sick, like I can do everything. If I'm sick, he can do everything. But then in terms of like creating marketing content, like Rob's got the skills and is continually polishing.
It's getting much more specialized now. Like we used to share an office, and it really our old roommates or whatever, they moved out, so we got the whole space now. But it became a point where we were doing completely different things, and like we do distract each other. And I was excited to like move into my own space and really get to focus on like my own stuff. And in doing that, it was definitely made my role more clear.
Mm-hmm.
I also really needed to build a special desk for myself for electronics building.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Because working on circuit boards.
Are you just starting
building
now to learn
circuit
about that,
boards.
or have you been like dabbling in that prior?
No, so I
That's electronics is next
when
level,
I
in my
was
opinion.
18 for Christmas, my mom my stepdad actually gave me Arduino kit, which was like this was like the first year the Arduino came out. So the Arduino was like a AVR controller that you can easily reprogram and use to do things. And that was kind of where I got started, was with that. And then when I started college, I was originally at University of Toledo, and I joined this thing called the Chemi Car team. And we had to build a robotic car that was powered off a chemical reaction. And so naturally, I took up a role with building all the electronics for it. Other people helped with like the building the battery and like all the chemical reaction data that we needed. But the electronics was my
Do
my
you
baby of that.
Do you see any other like competition implementing electronics outside? Like, I know that one came up today, but just like implementing just electronics with
For our
3D
one
prints.
brand.
Yeah.
It's
Or
definitely
just in general. I mean, just
we're
electronics
definitely at the
and 3D
forefront of it. Other people are definitely
That's a
doing
good
it
question.
more and more, but this is definitely the forefront of it. Like we're about to release our first electronic product here soon, and we are going to be one of the first people in that niche on it. So
With all original designs, because there's people who take like our Alibaba kits or disassemble a temperature gun already. Which what we're selling is a mobile or a wireless temperature gun. Can't go into too much detail about it because
Test for the flu wirelessly.
something like that.
wireless corona testing.
But I think that like the question you asked, like, do you see anybody doing electronics and 3D printing? And I feel like this niche is the first time that I've ever seen a product that's 3D printed, integrated with electronics. And who knows, maybe it'll show the rest of the world that it is possible.
Is it a problem because of the material, like the filament, and then like the heating of the electronics? Is that like...
No, that's not a problem at all. Building electronics is just really difficult, and it's like a completely...
They're so niche.
Oh,
and then bringing them together is just...
Yeah.
3D
just so far out
Yeah,
there.
because like a normal company that has like a team building a product, like they're gonna have an industrial designer who's like designing all the casing and like the overall like aesthetic of the product, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna have electrical engineers who are building the circuit board, and depending on how big of a project it is, you're gonna have multiple electrical engineers who are all working on individual components of it.
An engineer to make it all fit right.
Yeah, you might have a software engineer they bring in just because they're really good at programming and could help build all the libraries that the electrical engineers are going to utilize.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at a lot of people working on creating a product.
And you're like what you're kind of like getting at. That's a big company to hire all those engineers.
Yeah, it's crazy when you first start out how you kind of have to like know every aspect of it, just to be able to even understand to hire somebody else to do it, because it's like big picture and like it's just crazy from an entrepreneurial standpoint. How, what you need to know to start a company and just proceed. I feel like it's so hard to be niche nowadays, but.
No, you really do have to know everything when you're like doing like a startup or your own business, because if you outsource for something, it's expensive. It's very
you can't survive.
Very expensive. We built all the walls in this warehouse, or like all of the rooms, and
which is wild. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was a crazy endeavor. But we tried to do the electrical wiring ourselves and gave it a good. I wasn't a part of it. It was more your thing.
Yeah, it was me and the other guys who were here.
Literally built this from the ground up.
We were trying to do some crypto mining back when Bitcoin was really on the rise.
You want to go into that? Because Bitcoin is supposed to be doing well during down markets.
I don't really pay any attention to it whatsoever, so I don't have much to say.
Yeah, we can talk about the miners, and how they didn't make us any money.
Are people still doing that? Is that like a big thing still?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. People are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about Bitcoin in my last one too. Everyone's now, it's like a household name now, so everyone's just interested in it, especially younger people. I don't know.
Cryptos. It just sounds kind of...
Yeah, in other news, our first like real client, since it's related, they are a startup that has, they do have patents pending for their product, but what they're creating is essentially a point of sale system for using cryptocurrencies at a cash register. Okay. So that anybody that owns a store can get one of their little units, and then they can have it at the cash register, and you can pay with crypto coins.
It's best way I've
Don't, Rob, you can't go into it. Don't go into it. You're going to have to bleep that out.
Do you guys patent? Have you guys patented any of your guys' works?
Not yet. I mean, we definitely will when we can. We will when we can, but we can't.
Why?
I'm not a patent lawyer, so I can't give you the answer you're looking for. I don't know if you remember all of it to a T.
I mean, well, we showed him a lot of our products, and he went through what types of patents that we could use for him. Like, there's a utility patent, design patent, and there's a lot of questions. Like, a utility patent gets very complicated, and there's a lot of questions and angles that they're going to attack your
like, apparently if your patent is too obvious, you won't get it. Like if what you're doing is just an obvious solution, they won't give it to you. Which doesn't even make sense, because if nobody else has done it before and you're the first one to do it, there's billions of people and you're telling me this is obvious and I'm the first one to do it.
After this amount of time. Yeah.
So like that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, like we tried to get a utility patent for silicone and plastic integration, and his main point that shot it down was like, is this obvious? Like, people have been using silicone for years, and like especially in that in the niche that we're attacking, like it's a common.
Plus, the purpose was for stick resistance.
Yeah.
So like silicone's used all the time for sticky resistance.
But we could get a design patent, and it would be much cheaper, but it didn't sound like it was like crazy useful. More like people can. When we get bigger, it'll definitely be a necessary thing, because we want people knocking off like our designs. But just the way that he explained it, like you'd have to like compare pictures or whatnot and like judge if it looks similar. And there's certain like areas of stacking that I don't know. It gets really complicated and expensive.
Yeah, our lawyers are.
I was surprised he came and talked for free.
He did really.
Yeah, he's a.
Foot in the door.
I mean, might as well.
How'd you find him?
Through one of his buddies.
Yeah.
Who's also a lawyer.
Anything else you guys want to talk about? Bring up? Parting words of wisdom?
Just never stop practicing useful skills.
It's key.
Because at the end of the day, you really are only as valuable as what you can do.
I don't think I can say anything to